watching that horn bearing down on his chest as the cold armor rhinoceros accelerated its charge. A chill ran through Nie Tian like glacial air. He had a feeling that even with his robust physique, if that horn pierced his chest cavity,
he would be instantly critically injured. Behind the cold armor rhinoceros, more spirit beasts howled, their eyes filled with hateful glares, all charging madly. Heh, he chuckled softly, quickly retreating as the cold armor rhinoceros launched its attack.
11 spirit beasts, each one seemingly frenzied. He didn't believe he alone could kill them all. He naturally had to distribute the pressure to the Lingbao Pavilion trial participants, making everyone share the burden of the spirit beast's fury.
11 spirit beasts, just entering the glacial zone, and 11 spirit beasts appear. It seems the number of spirit beasts in the Xuanhuan realm is far greater than we thought. Everyone, be careful, prepare for battle! Behind
the Lingbao Pavilion trialists were roused to fight by the sudden appearance of the spirit beasts, their shouts echoing, and Ying Zhengru and Pantao stood before those people behind Nie Tian.
Her calmest moment came when 11 spirit beasts suddenly charged. She simply drew a long, crescent-shaped blade from her back. The moment her fingers closed around the blade, its tip erupted in a fiery blaze, raising the blade.
She swung it in a graceful semicircle through the air, shouting, "Form ranks!" The trialists, having undergone her rigorous training before entering, immediately dispersed from their chaotic arrangement. In mere seconds,
a cone-shaped battle formation began to take shape, and An Ying stood at the apex of the cone, the sharp point of their formation. "I've lured the beasts out, the rest is up to you," Nie Tian yelled, quickly retreating to the safety of the group.
"I only came to Xuanhuan realm to see the sights, not to be instantly killed. I'm only at the 6th level of key refinement. I'm far weaker than you all. You're the ones who need to deal with those things." With that,
he bypassed An Ying and slipped into the safest spot in the center of the formation. The frost-armored rhino, which had been targeting him, charged forward. Seeing Nie Tian suddenly disappear into the crowd, it instantly shifted its target,
setting its sights on An Ying at the forefront of the formation. The frost-armored rhino was upon them. An Ying had no time to deal with Nie Tian, only managing a curse of useless fellow before engaging the beast.
Her gaze never left Nie Tian as the spirit beasts appeared one after another, charging towards him. She kept An Shi's instructions in mind,
wanting to observe Nie Tian's remarkable qualities so she could report back to her sister after leaving the Xuanhuan realm. Everyone, when their life is threatened, will no longer hide their trump cards.
She believed that once Nie Tian fought the cold armor rhinoceros with all his might, under her close observation, he would inevitably reveal many of his secrets. But she never imagined that, faced with danger,
Nie Tian would actually turn around and charge back. Nie Tian didn't intend to fight the cold armor rhinoceros to the death at all. Instead, he transferred the impact pressure of the rhinoceros onto her.
Although she knew that Nie Tian's decision was the wisest course of action, because of her preconceived resentment towards him for snatching her brother's trial quota, she attributed his actions to his cowardice and weakness. She cursed,
seemingly wanting to vent her displeasure at Nie Tian. The long knife she held tightly in her hand suddenly shot out a fiery red blade aura nearly a meter long. Half moon slash, the meter-long blade aura, tracing a beautiful arc of a half moon,
instantly slashed towards the charging cold armor rhinoceros. Crack! The 3-meter-long frost-armored rhinoceros, struck from above by the blade's glow, was cleaved in two. Blood gushed wildly from the ripped-open beast.
The frost-armored rhinoceros' charging momentum couldn't be stopped. Inertia carried its body, violently splitting it in half. When the rhinoceros' horn was still half a meter from her, its bisected body crashed down on either side.
A thick stench of blood immediately emanated from the two halves of the beast, permeating the battlefield. What a formidable woman from the center of the group. Nie Tian kept his eyes on An Ying.
Witnessing her cleave the frost-armored rhinoceros in two with a single strike, he was profoundly moved. This frost-armored rhinoceros, though only a level 1, was known for its thick hide and tough flesh. The icy armor covering its body was as hard as iron.
An Ying, merely at the 9th level of key refinement, could cleanly kill it with a single blow, a fact that filled him with astonishment. Such power couldn't be solely attributed to spiritual energy.
Nie Tian's eyebrows twitched as he looked at the long blade in her hand, murmuring, "It's the spiritual weapon. That blade, it's at least a mid-level spiritual weapon, perfectly aligned with her cultivation attributes and imbued with years of her essence."
Only in this way could the power of the blade be maximized, releasing one's spiritual energy exponentially. Understanding this, Nie Tian's gaze towards An Ying deepened with a hint of gravity. "Careful, those spirit beasts are scattering.
Bypassing me and heading towards your flanks." At that moment, who had just slain the frost-armored rhinoceros with a single strike, shouted a warning. At this time, Nie Tian also noticed that after An Ying instantly killed the frost-armored rhinoceros,
the spirit beasts that had charged alongside it seemed to feel fear towards her. The remaining spirit beasts, instead of recklessly charging at Ying, gradually dispersed, flanking the cone-shaped formation and targeting the other trial participants.
Spirit beasts aren't stupid after all, Nie Tian muttered softly. He had no intention of fighting alongside the others. Instead, he observed the flustered disciples of various races while watching the spirit beasts, secretly assessing the strength of both sides.
In his view, with Ying present, this battle should be easily won without any unforeseen circumstances. This battle didn't require him to exert himself, and Ying, wielding her long blade,
was clearly stronger than those spirit beasts. Her presence was enough to turn the tide of the battle. Kill inferior spirit beasts daring to attack us. Kill them. Around him,
the trial participants from various families shouted and screamed, taking out various luminous spirit artifacts. Strange and wonderful spirit techniques and spells manifested from their hands. A boy holding a dark green metallic sphere,
with the same cultivation attribute as Nihong, but at the 8th level of Q refinement. Streams of green electric light, accompanied by the rumbling thunder from within the metallic sphere, continuously shot out,
electrocuting a silver, white spider that lunged at him until it was nearly dead. A girl with a baby face shrieked nervously, yet fierce wind blades flew out from the short sword she held. A snow ape that targeted her had chunks of flesh, skin and all
torn away by the numerous wind blades. These families' foundations were indeed far beyond what the Nie family could match. The spirit artifacts they brought to the Xuanhuan realm trials were clearly all intermediate level. Exceptional artifacts,
with matching attributes, each difficult to deal with. This battle seems to have nothing to do with me. Nie Tian watched cautiously, muttering to himself. He noticed that Zhang Rui and Pan Tao, both from the Lingbao Pavilion and beside Ying,
didn't seem to be using their full strength. Their expressions relaxed and at ease, it looked like. Before encountering that second-level python, following them should be safe. Having assessed the situation, Nie Tian appeared increasingly relaxed.
He nestled within the conical battle formation, remaining silent, deliberately allowing the trial participants to overlook his presence. However, not everyone ignored him. Nie Tian, this battle concerns everyone. You cannot remain aloof, Zhang Ru
unexpectedly withdrew, casting a cold glance at him before kicking him, forcing him from the center of the formation to confront the spirit beasts on the opposite side. Before entering the spirit treasure pavilion,
Zheng Rai had received a subtle hint from Ying, and had already harbored resentment towards Nie Tian, the outsider. Seeing Nie Tian calmly hiding amongst everyone while they fought, his irritation grew, and he decided to make Tan's life difficult.
During such an intense battle, Pan Tao also intervened. Chapter Sazur 39 Internal Conflict. Jingri and Pan Tao were not only disciples of the Spirit Treasure Pavilion, but their elders also held high positions within the pavilion.
The status of a Spirit Treasure Pavilion disciple alone was enough to allow them to swagger amongst the trial participants, and even more so with their powerful backing. Nie Tian was merely an outsider,
not even a member of a family affiliated with the Lingbao Pavilion. The disparity in their status and standing was so vast that Zhang Rui and Pan Tao had completely disregarded Nie Tian from the start.
That's why they dared to rebuke and order him around so casually. Just talk, don't go laying your hands on people. However, Nie Tian, who had been docile and unassuming the entire journey, showing no signs of defiance, his face darkened at their pushy behavior.
Standing just 3 meters behind Ying, extremely close to Zhang Rui and Pan Tao, Nie Tian moved with lightning speed. Bang! Nie Tian's 2 feet collided with Zhang Rui and Pan Tao's.
The impact of his souls meeting theirs echoing dully. Zhang Rui and Pan Tao felt a tremendous force explode from the soles of their feet. Thud! Thud! The two figures suddenly recoiled, tumbling headfirst into the oncoming spirit beasts. Nie Tian,
on the other hand, merely shuddered, quickly regaining his footing. Zhang Rui and Pan Tao, however, were frantically battling the 2 spirit beasts that had pounced on them. Once they forced the beasts back, they glared at Nie Tian,
their eyes blazing with fury. You dare fight back? Zhang Rai roared, his eyes swirling with furious rage, his expression ferocious enough to devour Nie Tian alive. Pan Tao, having freed a hand, stared at Nie Tian with disbelief.
You fucking dared to attack us. The other trial participants, while battling the spirit beasts, also kept an eye on the 3. When they saw Nie Tian instantly retaliate against Zhang Rui and Pan Tao's provocation, they were all shocked,
gazing at him with the wide-eyed disbelief reserved for monsters. As disciples of the Lingbao Pavilion's subordinate families, they dared not disobey Zhang Rui and Pan Tao, carefully attending to their every need along the way.
Fearing the 2 might cause trouble, Nie Tian, a member of the Nie family of Black Cloud City, whose decline in recent years they had all heard about, even they, in their hearts,
held a low opinion of Nie Tian, and all wanted to find an opportunity to make fun of him. They felt that Nie Tian didn't even dare to defy them. They never imagined that, at such a dangerous moment, Nie Tian would dare to disregard Pan Tao and Zhang Ru,
directly responding to the 2 with simple and brutal force. So what if I fought back? Nie Tian glanced at the two, saying mercilessly, I was able to enter the green illusionary realm thanks to Sister Anne. I only owe her gratitude, so…
When second Miss Anne said a few words to me, I gave Miss Anne the face and didn't bother with her. And who are you two? Why should I give you any face? Saying this, Nie Tian waved his hand with a look of reckless abandon.
I came to the green illusionary realm to see the world. I don't care about second-level spirit beasts or enlightenment pills. Come on, if you want to make a big fuss, bring it on, just because you're at the 9th level of Q condensation.
I want to see just how powerful you really are. He was no longer a novice fighting those of higher cultivation than himself. In truth, from childhood to adulthood, he had always clashed with opponents of far higher cultivation levels.
Whether it was Nie Hong or Nie Yuan of the Nie family, or Yun Song of the Yun family, he emerged victorious, soundly defeating each of them. Now, after the baptism of the rich spiritual energy in the minds, he had reached the 6th level of Q refinement.
And he remained confident in the strength of his body. In that mysterious land, he had also mastered a new furious fist technique, filling him with confidence even when facing opponents at the 9th level of Q refinement. Zhang Rui.
Both at the 9th level of Q refinement he feared them not. How arrogant! Is this fellow really a member of the Nie family? To dare challenge Zhang Rui and Pan Tao of the Lingbao Pavilion in the Xuanhuan realm? Does he not know the meaning of death?
The surrounding trial participants buzzed with disbelief. These individuals, relying on their precious spiritual artifacts, had gained a significant advantage in their battles against the spirit beasts. Similarly, while battling the spirit beast,
they could still spare their attention to watch the fight between Nie Tian, Pan Tao and Zhang Rui, clamoring and cheering as if hoping for more chaos. They were all young people, and far from being averse to such conflict. They even hoped it would escalate.
Because the spirit beasts posed no real threat to them. And Ying, the leader, had long noticed the conflict between the three, yet she hadn't intervened. She had assumed that under the pressure from Zhang Rui and Pan Tao,
Nie Tian would obediently comply and join the others in dealing with the spirit beasts. She hadn't anticipated that Nie Tian would not only dare to resist but also do so in such a violent manner.
Zhang Rui and Pan Tao likely hadn't used their spiritual energy. She wondered if Nie Tian had. If neither had, she thought, her gaze lingering on Nie Tian, her curiosity piqued by his strength and eager to see what would unfold.
The lower-level spirit beasts surrounding them weren't even worth a second glance. In her opinion, even without Nie Tian and the other two, the remaining participants were more than capable of eliminating all the spirit beasts. With such confidence, she,
as the leader, didn't bother to intervene, allowing the situation to escalate. Tao, help them take out those pesky spirit beasts. I can't stand that kid for another second, Zhang Rui roared.
Abandoning his struggle with the spirit beast and advancing towards Nie Tian step by step. The Xuanhuan realm has its rules. Taking a life is forbidden. Seeing Zhang Rui's rising anger, and Ying offered a timely reminder.
This seemingly a warning was more like an encouragement. Of course I know the rules! Don't worry, I won't kill him, Zhang Rui grinned, but from today on, his Xuanhuan realm trial is over. Clearly, Zhang Rui intended to be ruthless.
Then it depends on your ability. Nie Tian remained calm. He truly didn't think that a mere Zhang Rui could do anything to him. Just then, the ground beneath the boy holding the dark green metal orb suddenly bulged. Feeling the tremor beneath his feet,
he subconsciously looked down, and immediately let out a scream. A grey-brown lizard had burst from the ground beneath his feet. Before he could use the metal orb to unleash his thunder power, the lizard bit his legs. Crack!
A sickening crack echoed from his shattered legs. As he screamed in agony, the lizard's jaws clamped down on his abdomen, tearing into his flesh. Blood spurted from the wound. His eyes glazed over, losing their light.
The dark teal metallic sphere he clutched slipped from his limp fingers, falling onto the icy ground beside him. Qin Shan, the boys beside him, eyes bloodshot, roar, swinging their spirit weapons in a frantic attempt to strike the suddenly appeared lizard.
After killing the boy, the lizard that had emerged from the earth retracted its head and vanished back underground. A geo lizard! A level 2 geo lizard! Why did it appear here? And Ying, the leader, her eyes blazing,
savagely sliced the two nearest level 1 spirit beasts to pieces with her long blade. She knew there were only 4 level 2 spirit beasts in the entire Xuanhuan realm, and that geo lizard was one of them. However,
this glacial region has always been the hunting ground of the Xuanbing giant serpent. The territory of the earth. Walking lizards should be in the desert beyond the glacier. Her original plan was to slay the Xuanbing giant serpent in this glacial region,
rest for a while, and then hunt the earth-walking lizards in the desert. She wasn't prepared to face a Terranian lizard in the glacial region. Zhengru Pan Tao! Put aside your grievances for now and help me take down that Terranian lizard, An Ying urged.
She was worried. Deeply worried. She feared the Xuanbing giant python, another level 2 spirit beast, might also be nearby.
The 4 level 2 spirit beasts of the Xuanhuan realm were as powerful as newly entered Haoshan key refiners. If she only faced one, she believed that with her strength, plus Zheng Rui and Pan Tao, they could successfully kill it.
But facing the Xuanbing giant python and the Turanian lizard at the same time, she had no confidence whatsoever. At this point,
she no longer cared about sending Zheng Rui to probe Nie Tian. She just wanted to eliminate the Turanian lizard as quickly as possible, lest the Xuanbing giant python appear as well. However, what she feared most came to pass. A hissing sound
came from behind a strangely luminous, icy tree. A giant silver serpent, over 10 meters long and as thick as a man's waist, slithered into view with a sibilant hiss. Oh no, and Ying's face paled. Chapters Alder 4 then stepping up.
The Xuanbing giant python and the Earthwalker lizard appeared simultaneously. The young participants, upon hearing the hiss of the Xuanbing giant python, went deathly pale. Zheng Rui and Pan Tao were equally panicked. Nie Tian's expression turned grey.
He had no more time for banter with Zheng Rui, his focus completely sharp. Qin Shun's death, the sudden appearance of the Earthwalker lizard,
and now the Xuanbing giant python. It all made him realize that their journey through the Xuanhuan realm was far more perilous than he had anticipated.
Zheng Rui, Pan Tao, you two deal with the Earthwalker lizard!
And Ying took a deep breath,
forcing herself to remain calm and decisively commanded. As for the Xuanbing giant python, I'll take care of it. The moment she spoke, everyone sensed her lack of confidence. You're no match for the Xuanbing python alone, Zheng Rui shrieked.
Well, take on the Xuanbing python, and you deal with the earth-moving lizard, Pan Tao roared. Before arriving, they had heard from their elders that the Xuanbing python was the most formidable spirit beast in the Xuanhuan realm.
The Wushan pill would only be obtainable in exchange for the Xuanbing python's head. Zheng Rui and Pan Tao knew that An Ying's true strength was slightly superior to theirs, however, both being at the 9th level of Q refinement.
And having trained at the Lingbao Pavilion, they were well aware that An Ying's advantage was marginal. Together, they could actually surpass her. For them to face the earth-moving lizard while An Ying single-handedly confronted the stronger Xuanbing python was,
in their eyes, pushing her into a pit of fire. They could accept it. As they spoke, Zheng Rui and Pan Tao exchanged a glance, immediately intending to bypass An Ying and confront the Xuanbing python that had just appeared. I'm the leader, what I say, goes!
An Ying angrily shouted, raising her long sword high to stop them. I know I can't kill the Xuanbing giant python, but I can at least hold it off. I hope the time I buy will be enough for you two to kill the Earthwalker lizard together.
Once the Earthwalker lizard is dead, you can come help me, and the 3 of us can work together to kill the Xuanbing giant python. If we switch targets, neither of us will be able to finish the fight quickly. If we drag this out,
none of us will survive leaving the Xuanhuan realm. But it's too unfair to make you hold off the Xuanbing giant python. You could very well, Zheng Rui urged anxiously. If you're worried about me, then kill the Earthwalker lizard as quickly as possible.
As long as the Earthwalker lizard dies quickly, it'll be fine, and Ying said resolutely. Good, let's do as you say. Pan Tao roared, his eyes red. Sister Ying, you have to be careful. The girl with the baby face, her fingers gripping her short sword tightly,
almost cried out. Qin Shun died right beside her, and they were the closest of friends. When Qin Shun was bitten to death by the Earthwalker lizard, she completely lost her composure, because of their early cultivation.
All the teenagers participating in the Xuanhuan realm trials looked older than their actual age, appearing to be 15 or 16 at a glance. But in reality, they were only 12 or 13 years old. The girl, barely 12 years old,
had been pampered like a princess her entire life. This was her first experience with such a chaotic scene. She was clearly ill at ease, except for An Ying and the other 2 from Lingbao Pavilion.
The youths from the various families fell silent after Qin Shun's death. Fear and unease flickered in their eyes, especially after the appearance of the Xuanbing giant python. The arrival of the Xuanbing giant python transformed their fear into despair.
The only exception was Nie Tian, who had earlier bickered with Zheng Rui. Not long ago, Nie Tian had endured an even more desperate experience outside Black Cloud City. He would never forget that experience, but ultimately, relying on that beast bone,
he burned the 2 powerful figures who had driven him to despair to ashes. Nie Tian was already more resilient than his peers, and after taking a life, his heart had become as hard as iron. Although he was equally helpless in the face of this situation,
he wasn't panicked, nor did he feel fear. No fear, clear mind, and complete focus. And so he was the first to discover the new mutation. Beside the girl with the doll-like face, a patch of previously smooth ice inexplicably bulged. The tremor was minuscule.
The girl, already consumed by fear and staring intently at An Ying, hadn't noticed. She couldn't have possibly imagined that the earth-burrowing lizard that had just bitten Qin Shun to death near her would reappear so close by.
She was still listening to An Ying reassuring her. At that moment, Pan Tao and Zheng Rui, who had previously tried to push past An Ying and had only just ceased their argument with her, hadn't yet turned around. Get out of the way! Nie Tian let out a sudden,
startling everyone, and their gazes instantly fell upon him. Under everyone's astonished stares, Nie Tian, like a human cannonball, abruptly shot into the air. The spiritual energy within his dantian instantly surged into his right leg.
Leaping high above the girl's head, Nie Tian plummeted like a meteor, crashing hard into the ice that had once again bulged beside her. Boom! A dull thud echoed from the ice. Nie Tian felt as if his full force kick had landed on a giant leather ball.
Propelled by the recoil, soared back into the air. Roar from beneath the ice, a furious growl erupted. That roar unmistakably belonged to the Turanian lizard. Ah! Only then did the girl with the doll-like face finally react.
The short sword in her hand whistled through the air, slashing wildly at the ice beside her. Screech! The ice suddenly blazed with light, the sword's energy overflowing. Turanian lizard! It was the earth-burrowing lizard again?
Nie Tian's boy was the first to notice its movement. Without that boy, Zhang Miao would have been bitten to death by the earth-burrowing lizard. Just like Qin Shan. Terrified, everyone screamed and tried to rush towards the lizard's hiding place.
But after its unsuccessful attack, the earth-burrowing lizard, hidden beneath the ground, disappeared underground once more. When the trial participants reached Zhang Miao's side, they found nothing. After landing, Nie Tian gasped for breath and said,
"If you're all filled with fear, if you think this is a certain death situation, then there's no point in continuing to fight. You might as well kill yourselves immediately."
Rather than be chewed to pieces by the earth-burrowing lizard and the Xuanhuan giant python, and swallowed bit by bit, surprisingly, no one rebuked Nie Tian for his taunts. The Lingbao Pavilion trial participants fell silent, looking at Nie Tian as he landed,
adjusted his breathing and prepared to strike again at any moment. Fortunately, due to the appearance of the Xuanhuan giant python, the spirit beasts that had been watching them earlier hadn't rushed to attack. The colossal ice serpent, since its appearance,
hadn't seemed to be in any hurry, merely slithering closer at a leisurely pace. This slow approach gave everyone time to consider Nie Tian's words and reassess the perilous situation before them. "He's right," and Ying added, bolstering their spirits.
"This battle might be the most terrifying we've ever faced, but we came to Xuanhuan realm to hone our skills, to confront impossible odds. Don't worry, second-level spirit beasts aren't that terrifying, as long as I can hold off the ice serpent.
And Pantao and Zhang Ru take down the earth-walking lizard. We can turn the tide and defeat the ice serpent as well. I'm confident I can buy them enough time, and I hope you quickly kill those level 1 spirit beasts to help Zheng Rui and Pantao.
Alleviate some of the pressure. Believe in me, believe in yourselves," and Ying shouted. Under her encouragement, Nie Tian noticed the fear in the eyes of the other trialists gradually being replaced by a fierce resolve.
He looked at An Ying with undisguised approval, and at that moment An Ying surprisingly returned his gaze from afar. Nie Tian grinned, raised a hand and called out loudly, "Good luck, you too!" An Ying replied, Chapter 4 Wajan, Ice Claw Monkey.
"Thank you." The doll-faced girl, her heart still pounding, clutched her short sword and offered her thanks timidly. "I'm from Dark Star City. My name is Zhang Miao. Dark Star City and Black Cloud City aren't far apart. If you ever come to Dark Star City,
I'll be sure to treat you well." Nie Tian glanced at her, a smile playing on his lips. "You're at the 8th level of Q refinement, and your sword is no ordinary weapon, as long as you focus on the battle and pay attention to the sounds beneath your feet.
you should be able to sense the geckos. Be careful behind you and try not to overthink things." "Yes, I will." Zhang Miao nodded emphatically. Sound of rustling. At that moment, another strange sound came from behind the Xuanhuan giant python.
"There are more spirit beasts." Pantao's face changed. As the words left his mouth, 10 or so first-class spirit beasts emerged one after another from the direction of the Xuanhuan giant python. Many of the newly appeared beasts were snake-like spirit beasts,
likely summoned by the Xuanhuan giant python from other areas of the glacier. The moment those spirit beasts appeared, Nie Tian instantly understood why the Xuanhuan giant python hadn't attacked immediately. It was waiting for its entourage. Originally,
the number of Lingbao Pavilion's trial participants exceeded the number of first-class spirit beasts here. Moreover, those young members of various races possessed extraordinary spirit weapons,
giving them an absolute advantage in battles against first-class spirit beasts. Because of this, when Nie Tian and Zheng Rui clashed earlier, they had the leisure to watch. However,
the arrival of another wave of spirit beasts would force each of them to confront 2 or 3 first-class spirit beasts. This meant that even with their sharp spirit weapons, they would no longer be able to quickly resolve the battles.
After the appearance of the earth-traveling lizards and the swift arrival of the Xuanhuan giant python, the Lingbao Pavilion trial participants were already at a disadvantage. Their only hope was for An Ying to keep the Xuanhuan giant python occupied,
while others quickly dealt with their opponents to help An Ying slay the Xuanhuan giant python. However, the newly arrived batch of spirit beasts seemed to have crushed their last remaining hope. Hiss! The Xuanhuan giant python flicked its tongue.
its eyes radiating an icy gaze, a gaze that seemed to carry a hint of mockery, previously unhurried. It finally ceased waiting after those snake-like spirit beasts arrived from all directions. Damn it, I should have acted sooner. And Ying also reacted.
Realizing that their timidity and hesitation had caused them to miss a golden opportunity. We can't wait any longer! No one knows if more spirit beasts are approaching from other areas. She looked anxiously at the icy ground, her face clouded with gloom.
To her knowledge, a level 2 traveling lizard should also have the ability to summon lower-level spirit beasts. She wasn't sure if this earth traveling lizard had brought the level 1 spirit beasts from the desert here as well. Perhaps.
The desert spirit beasts were gradually closing in at this moment. She couldn't delay any longer. Whoosh! From her crimson curved blade, a cluster of flames erupted suddenly. The flames, once released, morphed in mid-air
into streams of fire resembling molten lava. In an instant, 6 streams of fire solidified before Ying, 6 fiery rivers, radiating intense heat, intertwined, forming a complex flame pattern, the Flaming River Formation.
Ying raised her long blade high, its edge suddenly pointed towards the swamping giant python. Wu, the floating fiery pattern, interwoven with raging flames like a bizarre, colossal cloud of fire, abruptly surged towards the swamping giant python.
In motion. Ying, wielding her long blade, instantly charged forward. The swamping giant python, over 10 meters long, its eyes icy, suddenly reared its massive head, opening its enormous jaws to the sky, a colossal pillar of ice.
As thick as a giant python erupted from its mouth, shooting straight into the sky and crashing into the fiery behemoth. The power of raging flames and glacial ice collided in an instant, scattering millions of shards of light across the sky. Everyone.
Nie Tian shouted again, buying us time at these words. The trial participants who had been fixated on Ying's struggle suddenly came to their senses. Nie Tian, however, no longer looked at the battle between Ying and the ice python. Instead,
her face grim, she was the first to charge towards a nearby spirit beast. It was an ice claw monkey, a creature with sharp claws and silver fur covering its entire body. The ice claw monkey was only a level 1 spirit beast, known for its agile evasion.
Its only means of attack was its pair of claws, radiating a chilling gleam. Its favorite targets were the neck, the face, and especially the eyes. Zhuzh! Seeing Nie Tian sprinting towards it, the ice claw monkey shrieked.
Its small body blurring like a wisp of smoke as it circled around Nie Tian. It didn't move in a straight line, but in a twisting, winding path. Just as Nie Tian was about to close in on it, its claws plunged into the ground, then violently rose again.
Chunks of ice and snow were ripped from the earth by its claws, shattering into a blizzard of icy fragments in the air, momentarily obstructing Nie Tian's vision. As the ice and snow sprayed, a silver shadow suddenly emerged from behind Nie Tian.
The next moment, the shadow transformed into an ice claw monkey. Its claws, sharp as icy blades, lunged from behind Nie Tian, aiming for the back of his neck. The neck is one of the most vulnerable parts of the human body.
A single strike from those claws would leave most people dead on the spot. It clearly knew the weaknesses of the human body. Just as the claws were about to pierce Nie Tian's neck, it couldn't help but let out a triumphant shriek. Die!
Nie Tian coldly snorted. It was as if he had eyes in the back of his head. With lightning speed, he reached behind him, his hands precisely seizing the furry wrists of the ice claw monkey. As the ice claw monkey shrieked, he flung it forward from atop his head,
gripping the ice claw monkey's wrists, preventing any further attacks. Nie Tian planted a powerful kick to its chest. This kick was delivered with all his strength, augmented by his inner spiritual energy. Back!
The ice claw monkey's small body was sent flying.
Its 2 arms were severed from its torso.
Holding the 2 furry arms, Nie Tian ignored the ice claw monkey's agonizing shriek. Instead, he calmly turned the thin monkey arms. He positioned the sharp claws outward,
transforming them into weapons. He immediately turned towards the nearest spirit beast. He knew that the ice claw monkey, having lost its claws and both arms, was no longer a threat even if it were still alive.
The ice claw monkey could no longer affect the battle in any way. Wu, at that moment, the subterranean earthwalker lizard suddenly reappeared.
A young boy named Xuanhuan was fiercely battling a giant spider when the earthwalker lizard reappeared and struck without warning. Crack! The earthwalker lizard bit through his leg bone. Overwhelmed by the excruciating pain, he was powerless against the spider,
which pierced his abdomen with its sharp claws. Zufang, Pan Tao and Zheng Rui, who had been searching for the earthwalker lizard, roared as they charged forward. But it was too late. By the time they arrived, Zufang had breathed his last and the spider,
knowing it was no match for them, had already retreated. Damn it! The earthwalker lizard hides underground but can sense the battles above. It attacks our companions while they're fighting. Pan Tao's eyes were bloodshot. As long as it stays underground.
And we can't kill it! We need to come up with a plan quickly! Ying, she can't hold on much longer!
Zhang Rui said violently, noticing another death. Nie Tian didn't panic over Zhu Fang's demise. Instead, he subconsciously glanced at An Ying's side.
Tao and the others' conversation. His face immediately turned grave. This isn't good. Chapter 042's If I'm wrong, I'll pay with my life. At this,
The gigantic fiery image above Ying's head was being shattered by the icy pillar. Nie Tian noticed the thick, white, icy mist gathering around the pillar. This was the glacial region, the ancient dwelling place of the Xuanbing giant serpent.
a mere level 2 spirit beast, the Xuanbing giant serpent was somehow absorbing the extremely cold spiritual energy of the heavens to enhance the power of the ice pillar. Fueled by the frigid spiritual energy, the icy pillar grew thicker and longer.
In contrast, Ying looked listless, clearly having expended too much energy. Hiss! After pinning Ying's fiery image with the icy pillar, the Xuanbing giant serpent slowly slithered towards her, from 100 meters away.
Nie Tian clearly saw the dejection and anxiety in Ying's eyes. It seemed she herself knew she couldn't hold on much longer. Her hope pinned on Pan Tao and Zheng Ru. She hadn't noticed that the two hadn't even found a trace of the earth, burrowing lizard.
Nie Tian understood perfectly Ying's ability to hold off the Xuanbing giant python was the key to their survival. Once Ying fell, and the Xuanbing giant python surged into their midst.
The trial participants battling the level 1 spirit beasts would immediately collapse. At that point, Nie Tian would stand a chance of escaping, becoming another meal for the spirit beasts here. This wouldn't do.
His gaze grew heavy as he tried to find a solution, a way to turn this incredibly perilous situation around. From the moment the earth-burrowing lizard and the Xuanbing giant python appeared simultaneously, he'd realized that to survive,
he had to cooperate with Ying and the others. That was why he'd acted without hesitation when Zhang Miao was in danger. Though he disliked Zheng Rui and Pan Tao, he knew that in this battle, he needed those two to stay alive, apart from Ying.
Zheng Rui and Pan Tao are our strongest fighters. They can share the burden and prevent the Earthwalker lizard from running rampant and killing indiscriminately. Ying is under immense pressure.
One of you must go and help her,
Nie Tian declared suddenly.
You're talking to us. Pan Tao was taken aback. And who are you to order us around? Our mission is to kill the Earthwalker lizard. We know what we're doing. And we don't need your interference. A frustrated Zheng Rui snapped. Kill the Earthwalker lizard.
You don't even know where it is. How are you going to kill it? Nie Tian sneered.
You're just wasting time here.
If it doesn't come out, are you going to wait until Ying is killed by the Xuanbing python? Zheng Rui was about to retort, but Pan Tao waved his hand,
signaling him to stop arguing with Nie Tian. What's your suggestion? Let Zheng Rui go help Ying. You alone are enough here for now. If the Earthwalker lizard dares to charge out, he can always return. Nie Tian knew Ying was in critical danger,
and spoke rapidly. I think I can help you share some of the pressure when the Earthwalker lizard appears. Enough to hold out until
Zheng Rui returns.
Time is pressing.
Ying is about to collapse. Make a decision quickly.
Compared to Zheng Rui,
headed and could make wiser decisions in crucial moments. Therefore, when Nie Tian said these words, he only looked at him. Zheng Rui, listen to him. Pan Tao took a deep breath. His face resolute. Don't worry about me.
That earth-burrowing lizard has emerged. I can hold out for at least half a quarter of an hour. Do you see if Ling can wait for you to continue wasting time? Nie Tian roared suddenly as Zheng Rui hesitated. If anything happens to Taoj, I won't let you off.
Zheng Rui glanced at Ying, catching sight of her struggling against the Xuanbing giant python's relentless assault. He gritted his teeth, glared fiercely at Nie Tian, and abruptly sped away.
Nie Tian had abandoned his attempts to kill the level 1 spirit beasts, because he understood that the true tide turners were the earth-burrowing lizard and the Xuanbing giant python.
Especially the earth-burrowing lizard.
After the earth-burrowing lizard
killed Zhu Fang, the trial participants battling the level 1 spirit beasts moved with a stiffness in their movements. Those youths, while fighting, frequently glanced at their feet,
terrified that the earth-burrowing lizard might suddenly burst from the ground and kill them as well. Though the earth-burrowing lizard hadn't reappeared, it was like an underground bomb, potentially detonating beneath anyone's feet.
This looming threat in the shadows made them tread on eggshells, battling the spirit beasts fearfully, terrified of becoming the next Zhu Fang. Calm down, calm down. Find the Geosaur. Nie Tian continuously adjusted his breathing,
temporarily pushing aside the perilous situation before him, focusing all his attention on the icy ground beneath his feet. Calm, calm. He silently chanted the word in his heart, slowly relaxing, to more keenly perceive the subterranean movements.
Thump! In this process, even he himself hadn't noticed that his heartbeat had become increasingly slower. His body temperature was also rapidly dropping. In a short while, he found himself completely chilled, the flow of his blood,
like his heartbeat, becoming extremely sluggish. Yet, his perception seemed to be rapidly strengthening, the fluctuations of the surrounding spiritual energy, the flow of spiritual power within the other trial participants.
The every breath of the spirit beasts he seemed to be able to perceive everything. The tremors from the trial participants and spirit beasts as they moved, the impact of their feet on the ground, seemed to be clearly perceptible through the soles of his feet.
Such keen insight surprised him. To better sense the earth's subtle tremors, he removed his shoes and socks, standing barefoot on the cold, hard ice, without the insulation of shoes and socks.
His bare feet allowed him to perceive each vibration of the earth with far greater clarity. On the fiercely contested battlefield, he suddenly closed his eyes, focusing all his attention and spirit on the soles of his feet.
He was intently feeling the minute vibrations emanating from the earth. Suddenly, he experienced a strange sensation of being out of his body, as if his spirit were wandering elsewhere. It felt as if tendrils of his consciousness, through the soles of his feet,
were beginning to explore beneath the earth. In that moment he felt as though dozens of disembodied versions of himself were weaving through the dark, subterranean depths. The sensation was like searching for something in absolute darkness.
Using only his hands. When his ethereal consciousness reached the spot where the trialist and the spirit beast had landed, he heard a deafening thunder of footsteps. The sound, which should have been faint,
was amplified to the intensity of a thunderclap through the heightened perception of his consciousness. He could quickly distinguish the sounds. They were the footsteps of the trialists and the spirit beasts.
His spiritual awareness would immediately evade them. Continuing to extend in other directions, he searched patiently out Pan Tao, who was constantly shifting his weight and whose gaze flitted across the icy expanse, noticed his strangeness.
Nie Tian didn't participate. Instead, he took off his shoes and socks, closed his eyes, and assumed a posture that seemed to invite death, giving him a long, hard look. Subconsciously,
he moved closer to prevent him from being attacked by nearby spirit beasts. After Nie Tian saved Zheng Miao and offered his advice, Pan Tao truly regarded him as a member of the team.
Since he believed Nie Tian wouldn't do anything harmful and was finding ways to help the team in his own way, Pan Tao considered protecting Nie Tian his responsibility. What a weird guy, though he muttered under his breath.
He kept a watchful eye on the spirit beasts lurking around Nie Tian, secretly preparing himself. At that very moment, as his scattered mental threads drifted, his consciousness exploring the subterranean depths,
Nie Tian suddenly sensed a surge of intense vitality. A geolizard. Nie Tian's eyes snapped open. Relying on his previous perception, he instantly zeroed in on a location. He was about to make his move when he felt an overwhelming wave of exhaustion.
As if he hadn't slept for 7 days and nights, his entire body heavy with drowsiness, he instantly realized that penetrating the earth with his spiritual consciousness and conducting that subterranean exploration had completely drained his energy and spirit.
It would be impossible to critically injure the geo-lizard, to make it pay a price. Pan Tao, over there. Tong Hao, 1.5 meters behind Tong Hao in the ice. The geo-lizard is right beneath.
Pointing to a youth battling another frost-armored rhino, he urgently hissed at Pan Tao. Go! Use your most ferocious attack!
Strike that patch of ice, trust me!
Pan Tao was stunned. You're sure? Pale-faced. Tian nodded emphatically, urging again.
Pan Tao was shocked. Go! Nie Tian roared. Without a moment's hesitation, Pan Tao, wielding a golden spear, transformed into a flash of lightning, instantly arriving behind Tong.
The golden spear suddenly erupted in dazzling golden light, so bright that even Nie Tian had to close his eyes. Puff! With his eyes closed, he heard the spear pierce the earth. The next moment,
Lizard's furious roar echoed from beneath the ice. Chapter Zord 4:3 in Securing Victory. Emerald, green blood gushed forth, erupting from the fissure between the golden spear and the earth. The earth, burrowing lizard's roar,
emanating from the depths of the earth, was deafening. The icy ground began to violently tremble. Enraged, the earth-burrowing lizard, roused to a frenzy, was about to burst forth from the earth.
Pan Tao possessed significantly more combat experience than Zhang Miao and the others. The moment the spear struck and blood spurted from the ground, he knew instantly that Nie Tian's judgment was perfectly accurate.
Ecstasy flooded his face, his black eyes suddenly shifted to a dark gold. A powerful surge of spiritual energy erupted from the hand gripping his spear. With lightning speed, he withdrew the weapon and plunged it back into the earth.
A blinding golden light once again flared from the spearhead, forcing Nie Tian to close his eyes and hiss. The same sound echoed from Pan Tao's position, followed immediately by the earth lizard's pained shriek. Heh! Finally found you, Pan Tao!
Having successfully landed 2 blows, grinned savagely, his confidence soaring, he pulled out his spear again, ready to strike once more. However, the earth lizard, having suffered twice, finally reacted, realizing its position had been compromised.
The earth lizard had no intention of engaging Pan Tao in a life or death struggle and swiftly retreated back underground. Pan Tao stared. Dumbfounded, he saw a large, raised mound of earth rapidly receding into the distance.
A level 2 earth-burrowing lizard, it possessed sufficient intelligence. Its body having been pierced twice was likely enough to discourage it from staying to fight. The earth-burrowing lizard actually fled. Zhang Rui, you don't need to come.
Burrowing lizard ran away. Haha, it actually ran away. Pan Tao was ecstatic, brandishing his golden spear and shouting with glee. As soon as he said this,
all the youths who had been worried about a surprise attack from the earth-burrowing lizard were invigorated. With the Geodraco threat eliminated, their anxieties vanished, and their courage soared.
Nie Tian noticed that none of them looked down anymore. They were completely focused on the spirit beast before them. Ah, the Geodraco escaped. Zheng Ru, who had gone to help An Ying fight the swamping giant python, was ecstatic. Tao Ji, fantastic job.
If we all survive this,
It's all thanks to you. Ha, you really are Taoji, brother. I admire you.
with Zheng Ru's help, An Ying was no longer so overwhelmed and could spare some time to visit Pan Tao. She didn't know the specifics,
But she knew Pan Tao wouldn't speak carelessly. If Pan Tao said the earth-burrowing lizard had escaped, then it must be true. Pan Tao's ability to defeat the earth-burrowing lizard was beyond her expectations, and she was genuinely happy. Pan Tao,
You really surprised me. You've got quite a skill set.
she praised unstintingly.
Brother Pan, you're amazing. We owe you big time this time.
Jiang Miao's face flushed with excitement, coming from Lingbao Pavilion. You're truly extraordinary, Pan La.
Brother Pan! The other teenagers also happily chimed in, showering Pan Tao with praise. Amidst the praise, Pan Tao felt uneasy, nervously chuckling and subconsciously glancing at Nie Tian. Others might not know,
But he knew that Nie Tian was the key to defeating the earth-burrowing lizard. Without Nie Tian's accurate location of the earth-burrowing lizard, he would never have been able to catch it off guard, let alone force its retreat without a fight.
the Earth, completely unprepared, had miscalculated. It never anticipated anyone could pinpoint its location. Just as it had ambushed Qin Shun and Zhu Fang, it was ambushed by Pan Tao in the same manner. Otherwise,
Even if it had charged out openly to fight Pan Tao, it wouldn't have lost so miserably, because in truth, its power was actually stronger than Pan Tao's. An embarrassed Pan Tao looked at Nie Tian from afar.
he saw Nie Tian raise his thumb high in a gesture of praise. In Nie Tian's eyes, there was no trace of mockery, only genuine congratulations. Because Nie Tian knew very well that although he had identified the earth-burrowing lizard as the key,
Without Pan Tao's decisive intervention, he wouldn't have had the energy to deliver the final blow. He and Pan Tao both played crucial roles in this battle, with the earth-burrowing lizard, which had been lurking in the shadows and repeatedly striking, fleeing.
the entire battle situation was instantly reversed. At this moment, although he was exhausted and nearly collapsed from exertion, the lizard's escape allowed him to catch his breath, knowing the crisis had passed. Heh? Pan Tao,
Seeing the praise in Nie Tian's eyes, smiled. This smile was one of genuine appreciation and pleasure. He nodded slightly to Nie Tian, and the two exchanged a knowing glance. Brother Tao, don't just stand there.
quickly help us take down the swamping giant python, Zheng Ru shouted. Coming! Pan Tao laughed heartily. But just as he was about to set off, his eyebrows twitched. Noticing Nie Tian's poor condition, Tong Hao, don't mind the spirit beasts here.
Quickly go to Nie Tian and guard him for a while. He's not doing well, Pan Tao instructed with a serious expression. After the Geo-lizard escaped, Tong Hao was the only one who wasn't elated. He was still visibly shaken.
Because he knew very well that if Pan Tao hadn't arrived, he would have been the Geo-lizard's next target. He would have been bitten to death. He was still feeling fearful. Ordered by Pan Tao, he glanced at Nie Tian.
When he saw Nie Tian pale and sitting on the ground, looking completely drained, he frowned, appearing somewhat reluctant. He didn't know that the one who truly saved him was Nie Tian. But at this moment, while everyone else was locked in a bloody battle,
This made him feel a little uneasy. He thought Nie Tian hadn't contributed anything. Tong Hao, did you hear me? Pan Tao glared. Oh, I understand. Tong Hao finally responded, in his view.
it was Pan Tao who had saved his life, and he owed Pan Tao a huge debt of gratitude. Therefore, whatever Pan Tao commanded, regardless of whether he was willing to do it or not, he would obey. He quickly arrived beside Nie Tian. What's wrong, are you alright?
He asked perfunctorily, something a little shaken. Nie Tian didn't explain, not wanting to embarrass Pan Tao, who was being showered with praise. Thank you for protecting me. You're welcome. I was only following Brother Pan's orders.
Tong Ha's expression was cold. He stared at Nie Tian for a moment, then said in a strange tone, you spoke so well earlier, telling everyone not to be afraid. Yet, how could you be so scared? Nie Tian was lethargic, his face pale.
Truly looking as if he'd been frightened, he naturally assumed that facing the threat of the swamping python and the desing lizard, seeing no hope of survival, Nie Tian had been scared stiff. Heh, Nie Tian chuckled, not bothering to argue.
He didn't feel like explaining himself to this guy, so it was all just talk. Tong Ha muttered, his face full of disdain as he looked at Nie Tian.
The swamping python escaped.
The other spirit beasts are retreating into the depths of the glacier. Ha, we won.
We scare 'em all away. Suddenly, All the youths began to cheer. Nie Tian focused his gaze and saw that the colossal ice python was indeed fleeing towards the depths of the glacial region at incredible speed. Having lost the Geosaurus assistance,
The python would have to face Anying, Pan Tao and Zheng Rui. It seemed to understand that if the three of them combined their forces, it would be impossible to win, so it decisively retreated. Once it left,
the remaining spirit beasts naturally didn't dare linger and scattered in all directions. Should we pursue them? Zheng Rui asked, his excitement barely contained. And Ying, clutching her long sword, panted heavily, sweat streaming down her forehead. Forget it.
Let's not chase. The fight with the ice python consumed too much of my spiritual energy. I have less than 30% left. I need to recover as soon as possible before venturing deeper into the glacial region.
Who knows what other second-level spirit beasts might be lurking within the glacial region? And Ying said, still shaken. To be safe, let's hold off for now. Pan Tao agreed. The surviving trial participants,
who had initially intended to pursue the fleeing beasts, all abandoned the idea after hearing Anying and Pan Tao's words. After this battle, the way they looked at Pan Tao was noticeably different than before. In their eyes, Pan Tao,
who single-handedly critically wounded the subterranean lizard lurking in the shadows, was the greatest contributor to the victory. Pan Tao was the one who secured victory. Without him, the subterranean lizard would have been a major threat to everyone.
And Zheng Rui and Anying wouldn't have been able to force the ice giant python to flee. Although it wasn't explicitly stated, everyone who had survived the ordeal viewed Pan Tao as a leader, equal to Anying.
They even believed that Pan Tao should be the new leader giving orders. Pan Tao had firmly established his authority through this battle. Chapter Azru 4 Foreign. Xuanfeng of Grey Valley. The battle was over. All the trialists spontaneously gathered around Anying,
Pan Tao and Zheng Rui. They all flattered Pan Tao and praised Anying for daring to take on the responsibility of holding off the ice giant python. The deaths of Xuanhuan and Zhu Fang didn't seem to affect their moods, after all.
They had had a deep relationship with them before entering the Xuanhuan realm. Tong Hao, who had been guarding Nie Tian, saw the earth-burrowing lizard and the profound ice python flee, and naturally ignored Nie Tian as well.
Nie Tian was happy to be left alone. He sat quietly in place, ignoring the commotion around him. His consciousness wandered deep beneath the earth. He narrowed his eyes, deep in thought, feeling strange about the earlier anomaly.
With his mere key refinement 6th level cultivation, his consciousness shouldn't be able to penetrate so deep underground, much less wander there for an extended period. Yet, just now,
when he calmed himself and tried to sense the earth-burrowing lizard's movements, he had managed to achieve a state of mental transcendence. As far as he knew, only those key refinement practitioners far stronger than him could achieve such mental transcendence.
Since childhood, he had always known he was different, because he had always been taller and stronger than children his age. If everyone refrained from using their inner spiritual power, and relied solely on their physical bodies to fight,
he believed no one would be his match. He knew he was stronger than his peers, but he didn't know that even his consciousness held an advantage. This battle gave him a deeper understanding of himself.
A lapse into a trance had nearly depleted all his energy. Such occurrences should be avoided as much as possible. With this thought, he felt drowsiness creeping in. It seemed that only a long sleep could restore his depleted energy.
With the threat of the spirit beasts gone, his attention relaxed, and with his mind at ease, he slowly closed his eyes. On the other side, Pan Tao was still basking in the compliments, but from a distance of dozens of meters.
He secretly glanced at Nie Tian again, when he noticed that Nie Tian seemed to have begun his recovery immediately after the battle. Pan Tao valued Nie Tian even more. In his heart, Nie Tian had become one of the most important members of the team,
second only to Anying in importance. He even thought Nie Tian was more important than Zheng Rui. All right. Seeing that Nie Tian was already resting, he suddenly couldn't bear the noise of those around him any longer. Quiet, everyone.
Who knows if those fleeing spirit beasts might return? Everyone, rest here immediately and recover your strength as quickly as possible. We must maintain sufficient combat strength at all times. And Ying nodded and gave her own orders.
No unnecessary chatter until your spiritual energy recovers. You lot are all so talkative, utterly useless when it really matters. She gazed far off towards Nie Tian. Earlier, when everyone was paralyzed by fear and uncertainty,
Nie Tian was the first to step forward. She didn't know what happened afterward, nor why Nie Tian suddenly became listless. But his composure and rationality at that critical moment left a profound impression on her. Like Pan Tao,
though she hadn't explicitly stated it, she too considered Nie Tian a significant figure. After she and Pan Tao spoke, the trial participants, still reveling in their excitement, finally quieted down, one by one settling around them.
These individuals reached into the pouches at their waists, producing luminous spirit stones. They clutched the spirit stones tightly, eyes closed. absorbing the spiritual energy within to quickly replenish their depleted strength. Before entering,
their elders had informed them that the spiritual energy of the Xuanhuan realm was far scarcer than in their homelands. Without special means, the energy consumed during battles in the green illusionary realm recovers extremely slowly. Therefore,
the elders of their clan prepared spirit stones that could help them recover quickly before they entered the green illusionary realm. Nie Tian, however, due to the impoverished state of the Nie family, brought nothing, as everyone closed their eyes.
Quietly absorbing the spiritual energy within the spirit stones, Pan Tao quietly left. He came alone to where Nie Tian was seated. Seeing that Nie Tian seemed to be sleeping with his eyes closed, he hesitated for a moment, refrained from disturbing him.